Hello and welcome to the 49ers Plus podcast. I'm Al Moriello, and this is your source for the most objective 49ers discussion and analysis. And today we're going to be previewing the 49ers-Bears showdown at Levi's on Sunday. Before that, we're going to discuss injury updates, impacts, and new additions to the roster. Defensive coordinator Nick Sorensen getting grilled by the media about why his defense is so bad. Kyle Shanahan's thoughts on moves or lack thereof at the trade deadline. Young players getting some run these last 5 games. I'm calling this the vision of what the future of the 49ers could look like at some positions. Then we're going to preview Bears 49ers thoughts, stats, rankings, and some questions that I have going into the game before I make a prediction. So let's waste no time. Let's jump right into it. And by now, you obviously know that Christian McCaffrey sprained his PCL ligament in his knee. He has been placed on IR. He is done for the season. Jordan Mason, high ankle sprain. At least as of this recording, he has not been placed on IR, but he soon will be. Kyle probably waiting to determine if someone like Talanoa Hufanga coming back from the wrist injury is going to be promoted to the active roster as maybe a viable backup for the game against Chicago, or if he decides to go another route with an elevation from the practice squad. So the McCaffrey injury, unfortunate. McCaffrey staying healthy would not have changed the outcome of that game. But you heard Kyle in the post-game press conference and even, in press conferences a day or two after that game that McCaffrey was starting to roll, starting to look good in practice. You could almost wash away either team's running game or running productivity in that Sunday nighter in Buffalo because the snow was such a mitigating factor for the defenses to stop the run. The Niners ran the ball well with and without McCaffrey. The Bills ran the ball well with Cook, Josh Allen, and company. Neither defense could really get a footing or slow down the run, which is funny because you would just figure they would just stack the box all game and dare the other team to beat them through the air, which didn't wind up happening. But maybe this is a blessing in disguise for McCaffrey. He wouldn't have been out there if he was not fully healthy, or let's say really, really close to it from the bilateral Achilles tendonitis that got a helping hand from a doctor overseas in Germany. And, as we've discussed and as you've seen during games, Shanahan had no mercy, just went right to McCaffrey, playing about 90% or more of the running back snaps from the jump, from the first game. And then obviously got hurt in the second quarter of the Bills game. Maybe this is a blessing. The PCL injury is not going to require any surgery, just rest. It's a 6-week recovery time frame, so he'll be good mid-January. There's no playoff football, so we're highly likely there's no playoff football, so that doesn't matter. Rest the legs, rest the Achilles, rest the body, and come back stronger next year, or come back just as healthy, let's say, as he was in 2023. And McCaffrey obviously has missed some time with Carolina. Now he's missed some time with San Francisco. He hasn't had, the bilateral Achilles tendonitis had the potential to be a major thing, right? An Achilles rupture. But the injuries that he's had, PCL, strain, sprain, not a tear, not an ACL, not an MCL, like Brandon Ayuk, unfortunately, and even his injuries in Carolina, I think, one might have been a shoulder, and he just got banged up a lot from the usage. But him only playing in essentially 3.5 games this season, he'll be 28 next year, but it's saving some wear and tear on the body. And you never want to get there because of injuries or potential injuries like the Achilles stuff, preventing him from being on the field, for the first 2+ months of the season. But McCaffrey's the bell cow in a league where there aren't many bell cow running backs. And even those that are Josh Jacobs, Saquon Barkley, Derrick Henry, they still get to sit some. They still get to be spelled and have other running backs come in much more so than how Shanahan defiantly deploys his running back rotation or lack thereof. So again, you want to look at the silver lining. Maybe it's a bit of a blessing that McCaffrey just has this, we'll call it a minor PCL strain, because with the team at 5-7 and the playoffs, it's really a steep uphill climb, it could have prevented any additional wear and tear or unnecessary injury for McCaffrey that might have bled into next season. Now, Jordan Mason will not be on IR, going on to IR soon. So San Francisco is going to be down to, so they've lost running backs 1, 2, and 3 for the year, right? We all forgot about Eli Mitchell. He was either going to be running back 2 or 3, but Mason and McCaffrey make 3. So now they're at running backs 4, 5, and 6 with Isaac Guerendo, newcomer Israel Abanikanda from the Jets practice squad, where he was released off the roster, actually, second-year player out of Pitt, and Patrick Taylor, who was on the active roster, released, practice squad, and re-elevated as your 3 top running backs. So we're going to get into that, the running back rotation, at the end of the podcast when I make a prediction and have some thoughts on the game. In terms of other injuries, did not practice Aaron Banks, Nick Bosa, Demetrius Flanagan-Fowles, Trent Williams, and obviously Mason. Banks concussion, Bosa oblique, Flanagan-Fowles his knee, and Trent is his ankle. I don't envision any of those 4 players playing. Dre Greenlaw and Hufanga were limited participants. I don't think Dre goes. He has a better chance of going on Thursday than he does this week, just because you don't want to. I think the thought process is thrust Dre back into the starting lineup or playing, and then he only has a half a week for his body, his Achilles to recover. Might as well give him the extra break, let him play in the Rams game if they decide not to shut him down for the season. And full participants were Jordan Elliott on the D-line, along with Sam O, Dominic Puny, Purdy, and Demo at corner. Should all be playing against the Rams. I'm sorry, against the Bears. Sorry about that. So beyond injuries, Nick Sorensen heavily under fire. I mean, everybody was under fire after the Bills game, right? Brock's not the guy. He should play out on his 4th year. They shouldn't extend him. Look for someone else. All the nonsense that's been floating out there. Kyle Shanahan, it was floated out there that, the Bears should make a call and trade for Shanahan. The Niners aren't letting Shanahan go. It would be a stupid decision to fire Shanahan, to trade Shanahan. He's under contract until 2027. Even if they lose 4 of their next 5 games, it's a down year for the Niners for a multitude of reasons, injury and games missed by key players, which has significantly surpassed the total of games missed by key players from the 2020 disastrous COVID year when they were 6-10. So if this year due to injury looks like 2020 did due to injury, at least record-wise, why does Shanahan not get a pass this time in some people's minds? Answer, because they're morons. Answer 2, because they want immediate gratification. Answer 3, they were either a Kyle hater all along and were just pouncing at the opportunity to say something negative about him or fire him, just like the online Grant Cohn clown clique, and their sheeple, they're lemmings that are just parroting the nonsense back that they spew. If you're going to spew negativity, and because you're negative or criticize the team doesn't mean you're objective. You're a misery monger. You're a misery merchant, kind of, when you do that. At some point, you're going to be right. Right? A broken clock is right twice a day. You can be objective. You can praise the team when it's going well. You can criticize them. You can have your own objective thoughts or perspectives on what they could be doing better on or different on offense, defense, and special teams. I know I've been pontificating about that in previous podcasts and will continue to do so. But Sorensen specifically got grilled in one of the press conferences by, I believe, Larry Crew. It wasn't a grilling, but it was just more of a, essentially, why does your defense suck in any which way you look at it? The red zone's terrible. They've allowed 19 rushing touchdowns. They were in nickel defense, meaning 4 linemen, 2 linebackers, 3 corners, and 2 safeties, a pass defense. Far too often against the Bills, when the Bills brought in a 6th offensive lineman. Seeing the numerous clips that are out there by people that dive into the film, and God bless them. And God bless them and kudos to them. I don't mean that in a slight in any way. Nick Sorensen does not match personnel. Wasn't doing it against the Bills. Hasn't been doing it all season. Does not match personnel when teams get inside the Niners 10 or 5. There's no such thing. I shouldn't say that. It's a rarity where Sorensen brings out a beefy goal line defense. He just doesn't. And he got called on the carpet for it by the media, I believe by Larry Krueger. And Sorensen's response was, we're looking at everything. There's nothing that's good enough. And he started giving some rambling-ish response in terms of why, why we're not doing this and we're not tackling, and it's leading to, first downs, they're converting thirds, etc. Everything sucks, Nick. Everything sucks. You can't use, or any of us can't use the personnel as that much of an excuse. It's a factor for sure. It's a pretty significant contributing factor, offense and defense, why the Niners are a 5-7 team. But if this was a team that could close out more on defense, the Cowboy game wouldn't have been as close as it was. The first Seahawk game wouldn't have been as close as it was. They would have won 1, 2, or all 3 of the NFC West games that they dropped. Forget about the Chiefs game, the Viking game. Got beaten by better teams, and certainly forget about the Packers and the Bills. Packers without Purdy, and the Bills, Shanahan just went into super conservative mode and didn't really give his team a chance to victimize the Bills through the air more so than what he did. A lot of screen passes, a lot of short passes, which is great, and I would love to see that in non-snow games. Give the offense and Purdy cheap yards, easy yards, because it hasn't been there. Those types of passes, and we're going to get into that in a couple minutes. So Sorensen, listen, you'd have to be deaf, dumb, and blind to not acknowledge that Nick Sorensen's in over his head. He's green. He doesn't do anything creative play caller wise, and he should be gone at the end of the season. And I hate calling for people's firings, but he should be gone for someone who is more seasoned, like a Jeff Ulbrich, like Jim Schwartz if he's gone from the Browns, like even Mike Zimmer if he's gone from Dallas. And I'm assuming Mike McCarthy is going to be gone, although Jerry Jones is leaving the door open for Mike McCarthy to come back because they have a commitment to mediocrity there. Sorensen, either he is who he is, or he's not experienced enough to mix things up, or he's playing Kyle's defense to a T. He's not rocking the boat. He's not trying to do anything too out there that maybe he viewed Steve Wilks doing, which led to Steve Wilks's firing. But if a D coordinator gets fired after losing the Super Bowl in overtime, Nick, do you think a D coordinator is going to get retained after having the year that you're having, including injuries? Injuries should mean you tweak the scheme. And that wasn't meant to rhyme, but it's just a happy coincidence. You don't have Bosa as one of your, 4 defensive linemen, and you have to generate pass rush some other way. Sending more at the quarterback. Has he done that? No. Has he brought in extra linemen to stop the run when it hasn't been happening? No. Has he been matching personnel as well as he could be? Definitely no all season. And it was a big glaring no against Buffalo. Sorensen's got 5 more games. I don't care if the Niners play like gangbusters all 5 of these games. He has got to go. And I've said it previously. If Kyle Shanahan was not the head coach and offensive coordinator, I highly, highly doubt, being the control freak that he is, he would hand over play calling duties to a first-time OC. And if you're not going to do that, then you shouldn't be handing over play calling duties to a first-time DC. Robert Saleh in 2017 didn't matter. The team was garbage in 2017. They knew it was a rebuild. They got Jimmy at the end of 2017, had a promising 5-game stretch. They thought they would be better in 2018. Jimmy gets hurt game 3. Saleh improves year 2. Year 3, they're in the Super Bowl. And then he gets, I guess, one more year and then went to the Jets. D'Amico, Ryans, again, first time D coordinator, I guess, in 2021. Had a rocky start. Got better year 1 and into year 2 as well. So it's not that Sorensen can't improve. This was an all-in year, and injuries and other things derailed that. Next year is going to be an all-in year for as long as McCaffrey and Kittle and Warner and Bosa and Purdy and Ayuk and Demo, they're stars, they're core players. Trent Williams probably has another couple years left, are on the team. They're going to be all in years. It doesn't mean that you spend right up to the salary cap. You still make smart, judicious moves, but you can't waste what's potentially another all in year on the hopes of Nick Sorensen learning and adapting his defense next year. He's had 12 games to adapt, and he hasn't. More than half the season. I think we've all obviously seen enough. Now on to Kyle. He had this thought about the trade deadline and why they only brought in Khalil Davis from the Texans for a 7th-round pick. Quote, there was no one player out there that would have made a difference the last 3 games, meaning the last 3 losses. And he's right. I think he and Lynch and others took a look at the roster and what they were up against injury-wise and said, you know what, guys, this just isn't our year. We're not going to make a splash and bring in a Chase Young type player or an Emmanuel Sanders type player. We are more than one player away. And they were right. A bigger splash signing would have just meant a higher draft pick that they would have had to give up. Now, Khalil Davis, for a 7th rounder, and I think 2026, they can evaluate him and see if he's part of the solution next year at D tackle. I'm sure they're going to draft a D tackle. I'm sure they're going to bring another one in from outside and see which 5 are their best in training camp and preseason to move forward with in 2025. So they're taking a flyer on a player almost as an evaluation type of mode. But there was no big swing out there that would have really changed. I mean, what one player would have turned the tide on a 28 and 25 point loss? You want to say maybe Seattle? I don't even know again if it's a player that would have changed anything. And talking about taking a flyer on Khalil Davis and looking at evaluating him for 2025 and beyond, this is what I'm most excited about for the next 5 games moving forward. The injuries have sucked. Ayuk, McCaffrey, Jordan Mason specifically on offense. Aaron Banks has missed time. He's in the concussion protocol. We're getting to see Ben Barch at left guard. But I titled this, this section, like we're getting a vision of the future. And that made me think, for you Star Wars fans out there, Timothy Zahn written 2-book set in the late 90s, Spectre of the Past, Vision of the Future, which then I think the book rights transferred from Del Rey to another publishing company, or from Bantam to Del Rey, whatever it may have been. But that was Timothy Zahn's last book until written under the old publishing company. And it was, just for you that want to know out there, it was they Empire brought in a Grand Admiral Thrawn lookalike, and it made the Republic kind of get all nervous. And then it was uncovered that it wasn't Thrawn, it was just an actor. And they set the stage up for Han and Leia as kids and what was to come, which was a better era of Star Wars novels, all now defunct, all now don't count. They're not part of the new canon ever since Disney purchased Lucasfilm in 2012. But that moniker for this section made me think of Star Wars, if there are any Star Wars fans out there. But I'm getting excited about seeing the young guys. Isaac Guerendo getting the start at running back. We've seen some of him. Some has been underwhelming. Some of it has been impressive, right? The big run against Seattle. He's had some big run at Seattle, had some good runs at Tampa Bay and Seattle again. He's going to get a whole lot of run the way that Kyle plays his running backs. Ricky Pearsall, 0 for 3 the last 3 games, has not had a reception, but with Ayuk hurt, Pearsall and Cowing, hopefully she gets some playing time. Maybe someone like a Chris Conley sits. They released Ronnie Bell only to bring him back to the practice squad. He is Dante Johnson of the offense, folks. We're not going to be able to get rid of him. Ben Barch, if you've been listening to the podcast, you know that I'm a fan. He's going to get some playing time, and he may be a player that the Niners re-sign if he shows out well these next 5 games. And if Aaron Banks stays in concussion protocol, even if he just gets 1 or 2 more starts, let's say, he could be someone that the Niners sign to compete at left guard for a fraction of the price of what Aaron Banks is going to get on the open market. And the difference in play may not be that great. Malik Mustafa has had a good start to his rookie year at safety. Renardo Green, same at cornerback. And Evan Anderson at D tackle, from undrafted rookie free agent to the practice squad to the 53-man roster. That's, 7 players right there, young players. I'm not going to say that they're cornerstones of the team. Mustafa might be, Renardo Green might be, maybe Pearsall is next year if they move on from Debo. And that's not counting, Dominic Pooney having a really good, a really solid season at right guard. D Winters is in year 2. Like, is he going to be the heir apparent next to Fred Warner if Greenlaw is gone. Tatum Bethune is on IR, another linebacker. Sam O at defensive end. Like, there's more youth on, I think, this team than a lot of media people or non-tent creators or doom and gloom, piss and get vinegar people want to say about the Niners are old. The Niners are old. The Niners are going to get rid of a lot of near or over 30-year-old players in the offseason, whether they're going to let them walk on expiring contracts. Some they may let go of, like a Hargrave to save a whole lot of money on the cap, or a Juice. Although I think Juice is brought back because he's a defined role on this team and has been serving as the de facto tight end too, since Kyle has not been able to develop one since he's gotten here. The Niners are getting younger, and they will be getting younger in 2025 for sure. And we're going to get to see some of that youth the last 5 games of the season, starting with Sunday against Chicago. It's either a 4 or 4:25 start. Not sure. Eastern Standard Time. Not sure if it's going to be on locally in the Northeast. The Niners are a 4-point favorite. A lot of pundits on NFL.com have taken the Bears over San Francisco. I think there was maybe 10 or 12 people picking, and I say 10, and I think like 6 or 7 of them chose Chicago. And I'm not a Niner apologist or a homer or look at things illogically, at least I don't think, but I'm curious about that. We're going to break it down as to why they think the Bears are going to beat San Francisco. Now, for the Niners, let's start with the negative, just so you guys know, throwing this out there. The Niners are the first conference champion, AFC or NFC, since the 1970 merger to lose consecutive games by at least 25. And it's only the 4th time in the team's franchise history that has happened. And it's all happened relatively recently, 2005, 2006, and 2015. Those were the dark years before and after Jim Harbaugh. Now, losing by at least 25 consecutively, I mean, it's really, I guess, not often that teams have a gauntlet of at teams the caliber of Green Bay and Buffalo. Green Bay not having your starting quarterback, Buffalo playing in a mini blizzard. No, I mean, no real excuses. No one's going to cry for the Niners or feel bad. They got pasted. They deserved to get pasted. It doesn't happen often, but it's happened the 4th time under the York regime. Congratulations to you guys. Now, all that being said, the Niners being 5-7, I truly, truly believe, looking at this objectively, logically, taking the fan hat off. I'm not going to take this hat off because you'll see how wild my hair is. But I think the Niners have a much better chance of going 7-7 than 5-9. So I think they have a much better chance of winning the next 2 than losing the next 2. And if they win the next 2, when you take one game at a time, you got Chicago, then you got the Rams, and the Rams beat them earlier in the season with basically nobody on offense. Take one game at a time. And if you get to 7-7, then it's a sprint to the end of the season where maybe things fall your way in some crazy fashion and they win 2 of the next 3 or all 3 of their remaining games. Detroit's in there. Miami's in there. Arizona is in there. That's going to be difficult, especially the Detroit game. But get to 7-7. They're going to suck us all back in. In a way, it's still going to be fool's gold, right? Because they're more than likely, if you had to bet money on it, right, that they're not going to make the playoffs. They're not going to win the division. I think the best they probably go here is 9-8, the absolute best, which means winning every remaining game except Detroit. And again, you don't know if Detroit throws up an egg like they did at Houston, where Goff throws multiple interceptions, but maybe the Niners sneak one out. I wouldn't bet on it, but upsets happen all the time, right? Raiders beat the Ravens. Browns beat the Ravens. Jets beat the Texans, although I saw that one coming a couple Thursdays ago. I don't know why, but I did. So the Niners could start marching back to 500. And in terms of like the draft pick, I don't care, that they're close to like a top 10 pick now, or if they lose the next 2, then they're close to a top 5 pick. Whatever happens, happens. I've been doing NFL mock drafts with college players for a month now. And even if the Niners were good, I would do that because it's a fun way to spend 10 or 15 minutes. I don't generally do trades because I usually just want to make the picks where the Niners have them now versus, oh, I'm going to trade up and trade back and look at all these plays. Like, it makes it more unrealistic. I see people online that do that. Last year, someone, I don't know how many trades they made, but they drafted 4 offensive linemen, and they're swearing up, not cursing, but swearing up and down Twitter, oh, this is what the Niners got to do. They got to draft 4 offensive linemen. And I'm like, guys, are you like, bro, are you serious, bro? I mean, I can't talk like myself because I'm not a moron, but bro, they got to draft 4 offensive linemen, bro. They need to fortify the trenches, bro. Any year the Niners draft more than 1 offensive lineman, consider that lucky. They should draft 2 this year. They should draft a tackle, an heir apparent to either McKivitz or Trent Williams. Jalen Moore, don't be surprised if he is retained. He's played really well the last 2 games, one in obviously inclement weather. And if Williams can't go again on Sunday, he would get the start, and he could potentially be had for cheap. But you still need to bring in more youth, because Banks is going to be gone even if Barch takes his place. You need backups. Zakeel and Burford in 2025, that's the last year of their contract. John Feliciano's gone. 2025 is the last year of the contract for Colton McKivitz. So I don't care how many draft picks the Niners have. They could have 12. They'll draft at most 2 offensive linemen. I would be okay with that. But you got to draft. They need offensive linemen, bro. That's why I have them. This is the most logical. This is the most realistic draft I've seen for offensive linemen. Shut up, moron. Now, the Bears haven't beaten anyone with a winning record, just like the Niners haven't. Actually, I'm not sure if do the Bucks now technically have a winning record? I would have to go back and check. I think they might be 6-6. But they've beaten the Titans, the Rams, who are 6-6, the Panthers, and the Jaguars. The Rams win in there is actually a nice one since the Niners did not beat them. But Titans, Panthers, and Jags are a gauntlet of who gives a shit. And they've lost 3 straight. Washington, Arizona got pasted by New England. Green Bay, Minnesota, and Detroit, all relatively close games in their division. So you tip your cap to them, slightly. But it is still a 6-game losing streak. And of course, that Thanksgiving night game, one of the most appalling uses of, or non-uses of a timeout that any of us have seen in recent memory. Now, the Bears, led by rookie quarterback Caleb Williams, has had a very solid rookie season. 2,600 yards, 14 touchdowns, 5 interceptions, some splash-worthy plays, some head-scratching plays. It's been an up-and-down year, which we expect from really any rookie quarterback. DeAndre Swift at running back, 700 yards rushing, 5 touchdowns. Then you have DJ Moore, rookie Rome Odunze, and somewhat healthy Keenan Allen at wide receiver, and Cole Kmet having a pretty decent year at tight end. The Bears have weapons, and Caleb Williams at times, as recently as the second half of the Lions Thanksgiving game, has proven to be a good facilitator of the football. But they are what their record says they are, right? They're 4-8 for a reason. They are not a very good team. They've only beaten bad teams. And the Niners are a bad team right now. They're 5-7, but they're a better team than the Titans, Panthers, and Jaguars, and on par with the Rams. Defensively, they've accumulated 30 sacks, led by defensive tackle Gervon Dexter Sr. with 5, and D-end Montez Sweat with 4.5. Only 9 interceptions as a team. Pro Bowl cornerback Jalen Johnson leads the team with 2. And statistically, this is a very middling or worse team. Offensively, they are the number 26 offense in the league. 27th throwing the ball, averaging 190 a game. 23rd rushing, averaging 109 a game. And 23rd in points scored, scoring 20. Defensively, they're number 22 overall, 11th against the pass, allowing 209, 25th against the run, allowing 135, and 9th in points allowed, allowing 20. So they're scoring 20, they're giving up 20, but they have no ties. Figure that out. Middling team. Now I know the Niners are not looking good, and they've looked really bad the past 2 games. And to me, how bad they looked in Green Bay was a result of no Brock. In Buffalo was a result of the weather and the Bills being a better team, and Kyle not being a little bit more conservative with the play call, and Nick Sorensen just basically shitting himself in the snow in terms of how he was calling the defense. Thinking about this game as a non-fan, not as a homer, trying to be objective about it, I'm not going to say how is this a game that the Bears can win. The Bears can win this game. Niners are only a 4-point favorite, but I'm very tempted to take the Niners giving 4 because I think they are a better team than the Rams, and they are getting healthier when you have Jordan Elliott coming back to the D-line, Sam O, who played but was banged up, Puny going to be remaining at right guard, Purdy another week removed from the injury, and Demo manning the corner spot instead of someone like Isaac Yiadom or Nick McLeod. And who knows about, Bosa or Trent Williams. I mean, they shouldn't play. They haven't practiced as of Thursday. And I think at this point, you could probably call it a wash. And maybe Kyle thinks, hey, obviously we're a 5-7 team. We're not very good. We're hit by a lot of injuries, but maybe we can get past Chicago, keeping a Bosa, a Greenlaw, a Hufanga, a Trent Williams on the bench. Let them rest up because we have a short turnaround for the Rams. And if we can beat the Bears, let's get the Rams with some of our injured players getting a little bit more rest, getting a little bit closer to full strength, and put our best foot forward next Thursday night to try to get to 7-7. It's just one way to think about it, perhaps. Or just the body's just not responding completely to allow any of these players to play, which is obviously another way it can go. But here are my thoughts on the game, guys. How will the run game look without McCaffrey or Mason? I've said in previous podcasts, and I'm sure it's apparent to you guys too, the run game over the course of the season has looked better with Mason than with McCaffrey. Maybe the Bills game could have been a turning point for him. McCaffrey's 4th game, I believe, that would have been maybe his training camp to start seeing the hole better, to start, anticipating things better, reading the defense, getting more explosive. We won't know now that he's on IR, and Mason's on IR. So it's going to be Guerendo, Patrick Taylor, and Israel Apanaconda, formerly of the Jets, of Pitt, second year player. And he's someone that I'm excited to play if he gets a snap. He's got good speed like Guerendo, not a big back, but I think 5'10", 210, not a small back either. Not going to give you a ton in the passing game. He's going to, I'm sure, sit for like a week or two or only come in if necessary and play special teams because Kyle will not trust him in terms of pass protection and anything else. So what can we expect? We can expect Guerendo to get 20 plus carries. Patrick Taylor's just a guy. 4.66, 4.68 speed, a plotter, but a strong back that if you need a yard or two, short yardage type of thing, maybe a carry or two to spell Guerendo. Kyle has said we are not a 3-back team. Kyle and my response was, Kyle, you're not a 2-back team. The way Kyle puts it is when we have an entrenched starter, that's who we go with. And he was consistent with McCaffrey last year, with Mason the start of this season. Think how many carries Mason got when he was the starter compared to Guerendo or Taylor. And now I'm not going to say, yes, he got injured on his shoulder at Seattle. And I hesitate to say it's because of how much Kyle used him because injuries can happen at any point. But it's still weird when you're easing McCaffrey back, or you would think, forget easing, bringing McCaffrey back from lower extremities injuries, potential injuries, and you don't limit his touches to a degree, knowing you have such a quality back behind him in Jordan Mason. This isn't the case now. Now it's Guerendo, who's shown some good things. Hasn't been all good, hasn't been dynamic from the get-go, was really bad, worse than mediocre up until his 76-yard run. He's had some big runs that have inflated his average. But all running backs do, right? Every running back's yard per carry is a result of a 5-yard gain, a 7-yard gain, a 2-yard loss, a 30-yard run. It's all part of the math. But Guerendo has not, if you had to give it percentages, maybe like 55, 45 average to above average. But he's going to have to be above average against Chicago to give the Niners a chance because Kyle's not going to any other running back. Will Purdy bounce back from the Buffalo game? Yes. Why? Because it was a blizzard. People saying, well, Brock's not the guy. He can't throw in snow. Does it matter? He plays in San Francisco. His division rivals are in Seattle, which rarely sees snow, just rain, and indoors in Los Angeles and Arizona. That's 6 of their games. Will there be the occasional Northeast game? Hell, Minnesota's indoors. Chicago will be an outdoor game. Buffalo, Philly, New England. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if Brock can't drive it in the cold in 20 degrees. How often is that going to happen? And how many quarterbacks actually can? Again, this is one of those, if you ain't top 5, you ain't worth it. There might only be 5 or 6 or 7 quarterbacks that can make the throws they need to in severe inclement weather, whether it's cold, rain, snow, sleet, whatever. Stupid non-factor. He will bounce back. I'm not saying he's going to have a 300-yard game, but Purdy will bounce back, so much so that I'm starting him in fantasy this week. Now, will Kyle give him cheap yards? Will Kyle give him horizontal throws, screen passes? Last year, this surprised me seeing this stat. Last year, the Niners were the number 6 ranked screen pass team. Oh, I'm sorry, no. Their screen pass rate, I guess, in terms of their overall pass distribution, which to me still felt high. I didn't think they were even in the top 10, but okay. Number 6. Now they're 25th. 25th in terms of the rate of their passes that are screens this year. And you would think with the injuries at receiver, at running back to McCaffrey, and I'm curious as to what they call a screen. You can throw screens behind the line of scrimmage. You can throw middle screens. You can throw tunnel screens out wide to receivers. Let's assume that it's everything. Any which way that's just a short pass that could look like a screen, slightly vertically, but mainly horizontally. Yeah, they're 25th. Their rate is 25. And you would think it would be more when you're missing more of your weapons to give your quarterback more cheap yards, but they went bombs away Brock, which is still surprising to me. Maybe Kyle gets back to that mix more. Would love to see at least 5. I mean, 5 out of 25 throws is still, a 25th kind of percentile. That's not a ton, but I'm also not expecting them to have like half of their throws being screens. Defensively, will Sorensen show any creativity? The Bears are not a team that runs it all that well at 109. They don't pass it great at 190, but I don't want to see Caleb Williams going for 270. I don't want to see these 3 receivers and Cole Kmet running free, running wide open, not being challenged. If Sorensen is going to send a blitz from this side, you should not have the corner playing off on this side, right? If you are forcing the quarterback to go this way, then the corner should not be 10 yards off. The corner should be up because you figure the QB is rolling this way and will probably want to pass to this guy. I know I made that very basic, but there's just the D line is not connected with the secondary when he has done anything that's beyond the very vanilla rush 4 drop 7. Will he show any creativity to confuse a rookie? Yes, Caleb Williams is 12 games into his rookie year, but he's still a rookie. Will he show any creativity to take away the run, to challenge receivers on the outside? They do have 3 good receivers. The Niners have 3 good corners. Ward is back, Green and Demo's back. And then I'm not as down on someone like Isaac Yiadom as a lot of people are. And Nick McLeod, let's see again, he's another only 26 years old. He could be part of that vision of the future in terms of maybe a number 4 cornerback and someone that's on special teams as a gunner. Make Caleb Williams uncomfortable. He's only thrown 5 interceptions all year, but he's still a rookie. It could still get sloppy and stupid looking like it has a lot for him in a handful of games. Let this be one of them. And by extension, will they limit Caleb's off-schedule plays? Caleb can move. If they can't get to him with 4 players, he's going to buy time behind the line of scrimmage like Brock does. He's going to extend plays. He's going to run to the sideline, stop, square up, and try to, hit someone on the sideline or across his body. Those off-schedule plays have typically killed San Francisco because you can't ask your secondary to cover for 5, 6, 7, 8 seconds. You want to say you're a violent defense, Sorensen? You want to say you're overly aggressive and that's why you're missing tackles, etc.? Then be aggressive. Still break down, still play under control when it comes to tackles, but be aggressive. Take the fight to the Bears. They're not a good passing team. They're not a good running team. They're not a good scoring team. They're ranked 23 or worse in all 4 of those metrics: total offense, passing, rushing, and points. And their defense, Kyle, better against the pass than the run, but you should be able to have your way with both. Brock should be able to pick apart the Bears defense. They should be able to run even with Guerrero for close to their average, close to what the Bears are allowing at 135. And the Niners should be able to score over 20 and prevent the Bears from scoring 20. I truly, truly believe that. This is a very winnable game for San Francisco. I won't call this a get-right game. I think the Bears maybe can do enough on defense to make San Francisco's offense not look fantastic. And I think the Bears have enough offensive weapons to still give Sorensen problems like every team has. But I think the Niners could corral this team. It's so funny. I'm using words like the Niners corralling a 4-8 team. Well, when you're 5-7 and you're playing someone that's on your level, at least record-wise, I guess you want to corral them, right? I guess you want to slow them down. It's not like you're 9-3 and they're 4-8 and it's all about crushing them and putting your foot on their throat and, squeezing the life out of them in terms of, pressures and getting up, 24-0 quick. It's not going to happen. So we'll use the word corral. Let's Niners corral them on offense, slow them down, be efficient. When the Bears are on offense, be efficient yourselves on offense and try to goddamn convert some 3s to 7s. Try to not have a pitiful performance again in the red zone, offensively and defensively. Nick, maybe you can force some 7s to become 3s. All that said, I think the Niners are going to win this game 23-16. I don't know what the over-under is. I don't really care, but I do know the spread is 4, and I have the Niners. 23, I have, what is that? That's 2 touchdowns and 2 field goals. 2 touchdowns and 3 field goals. Sounds about right. And maybe the Bears get in once and kick 3 field goals to get to 16. Would I be shocked if the Bears won this game? No. But I think this is a game that's ripe for the taking for San Francisco, even though the Bears are going to get that initial bump from having their interim head coach in, right? So Thomas Brown, who wasn't the OC, Shane Waldron got fired, became the OC. Eberflus gets fired. Now he's the head coach. They're going to get some sort of an energetic bump here. We'll just see if the Niners can withstand it, ride the wave, and do enough offensively and defensively to just score more points than the goddamn Chicago Bears. And if so, it's 6-7. Quick turnaround for Thursday with the chance of getting to 7-7. And then who knows? Who knows what the discourse on social media is? How many people are going to be, and especially if the Cardinals beat the Seahawks this week, then they're both 7-6. And the Niners are 6-7, 1 game back. Is the discourse going to be, oh, they won a game that they should have won. They're still shit. They need to be tanking for a top 15, top 10 pick. Or is it going to be, oh, if things break right, they might be able to get into the playoffs, even though we know if that happens, and I'm not betting on it, that they're not really going anywhere. But we'll see. Stranger things have happened, including Niners getting a win. Could this be their first win in a month? I hope so, and I believe so. Until now and then, thank you so much for listening. Thank you for making us part of your listening routine. I know you people are very, very busy. The next podcast will be on Monday as I think a dual recap and look ahead to the Rams game. If it's not on Monday, then it'll be early on Tuesday. But whatever you're doing between now and then, stay happy, healthy, and safe, and we will talk soon. Take care.